Welcome everybody to a new episode of Rooftop Conversations. I'm Meg, and today I have one of the few people I really respect and really appreciated my time with while I was in law school. And there's not that many, because the legal field is, the legal field. So let me introduce you to a great friend of mine from my law school, Shuana Cole, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. So Shuana, take it away.
My name is Shuana Cole. I'm currently a 3L in law school, and I am happy to be here. I'm really glad that May agreed to have me on.
Well, thank you so much, Lashana. I actually really you have an interesting story to tell. I think, being in law school, there's not that many stories that do get told because such a, in my opinion, not the most diverse place to be in, and you kind of get the same five stories. So definitely, I really appreciate you coming on. So the first thing I ask, all my guests who come on, and I want you to be very honest about this question. So, what was your first impression of me?
Honestly, May, I was like, I wonder, every time I meet somebody, I'm like, are they nice? Are they a nice person? Are they a bitch or an asshole? And so for me, because I know that your how do I word it? Like your personality, you weren't like as open in law school as like other people were. You were a little bit more like to yourself. Like you had your group of friends, but you were a little bit more to yourself. So I was like, oh, I hope she's nice, basically. Like I hope she's nice. But I remember when we had our first conversation, and I remember you're the one who actually like came up to me and was talking to me, and I was like, oh, she's cool. All right, this is gonna be fine. So
it's so fun because I think everyone I interviewed so far, they're like, amazing character. She was so out there. She was so loud. But it was for the viewers, when I went to law school, I didn't really have the greatest time. I was pretty much depressed and anxious most of my time there. So I kind of kept to myself, kind of hung out with friends outside of school, not really I didn't really kind of come into the law school community. But Lashana was definitely one of the few people. I think I mentioned in a previous episode, Lashana gave me a vibe that I could definitely really feel that she was a genuine person. She's very real. And I think that's something that is lacking in our field. There's a lot of people who come in to do it for the money or their parents force them to.
or to
And there's
find a
very
husband.
to be yes, or to find a husband. That's actually a big one actually in our law school. But I think there's very few people who do come into the profession really wanting to do the work and really wanting to create change. And LaShawn, you're definitely one of them. So if you want to tell the viewers, why did you pursue law? There's so many things that you could do to change the world, but why law? Why this field?
Well, honestly, May, it's so funny because I feel like genuinely that's what I was supposed to do. Like that's what I was born to do. I remember, according to my mom and my brother and my brother, we used to play like judge and or court, I guess you could call it, when we were all younger, and I always wanted to be the lawyer. And there was actually a time when I don't remember if I was 12 or younger, but I actually even told my dad that when I become a judge, I'm gonna put him in jail. So I just feel like it was always something that I was supposed to do. Even like when I was in high school, my math teacher would call me counselor as a nickname. And I remember when I was going through my chemo, I actually negotiated with one of the doctors. They did the surgery to, take the tumor out of my nose. And they had me in the ICU and I hated it. And they finally brought me out of the ICU, but they were like considering putting me back into the ICU. And I like negotiated with the doctor, and he like stopped me midway and was like, are you going to be a lawyer? And I was like, yes. So like, I just feel like it's something that I always kind of knew. I just felt like it was something that I was supposed to do, if that makes sense. It's just like, I can't really see myself being anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that anecdote. Especially when it comes to negotiating, in the medical field, we already know how problematic that could be, and how, women of color, especially Black women,
Oh,
are forced to advocate for themselves and
yeah.
forced to kind of like I had a conversation prior in like the last episode where we talked about advocating for ourselves because of the way that everything's so,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like we all know, we all know.
We all
So
know.
so like thank you for sharing that. And like it does seem like this is like your passion. This is what you were born to do. And you're super like, you also are coming into the profession not because like, oh, I want to make the six figures or you want to do this, but you're coming in with a mission. And you know, as we're talking, as I've gotten to know you throughout my legal career, you've mentioned that you're really interested in criminal law and criminal justice. So,
Mhm.
what about that aspect interests you, and why this field? Like, there's so many things you can do with a law degree,
Right.
but why criminal law? And yeah,
Um, well, first of all, I just think it's more interesting than civil law, to be honest with you. I feel like it's just more interesting. It's something that I can get into more. Like, I feel more passionate about it. And, I think what it is like, I like to advocate for people, first of all. And I think in our criminal justice system, we know that there are so many disparities between the way that people of color are treated and non people of color are treated. And I really truly feel like I want to go in there and try to change that, or just, be part of the efforts that are being made to change that. I watch a lot of like prison shows and stuff like that, and I watch a lot of prison documentaries, and I hear stories about people who are in jail for stuff they didn't do. You hear stories all the time about people being in jail for decades and then coming out because it came out that they didn't even do it, and it's just like, it's terrible. But there's just so much, and those things always only happen to people of color. And
hmm
so it's just like, I find it the most interesting. I find that I can really get passionate about it and really, get like into it, if that makes sense. But like, I just want to be part of doing the work to change the disparities that we see in our criminal justice system. I really do. So have to say that's probably what it is.
yeah, no, definitely. And I really commend you for taking that on. Criminal justice work, criminal law work is not easy. We've seen, it's even unfair to even say criminal justice because it's not really a justice system. As we've seen, Black and Brown communities are targeted all the time. They have the highest number of incarceration rates, and we even see here with like marijuana in the 80s, 90s with the drug, like the war on drug nonsense. You
Right.
know, who are the ones that are being convicted for coke? It's
Exactly.
Black and Brown communities, not the wealthy white,
No.
folks who are able to pay like the money off, or
And
able, or
I
even
just
things
want
like
to
being on
even
bail.
Right, and I just even want to add about the marijuana. Now, now that it's becoming more legal, non-people of color are able to come in now and make money off of it, and you see all these different businesses popping up, where they're incorporating, cannabis or whatever into all their different businesses. Meanwhile, there are many Black and brown people who are still in jail for having some weed on them. So even now that we're seeing more and more places legalize it, it's like there's still a disparity. So it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely. I like, it's like white business owners who are like getting profiting off of marijuana legalization, but where's the money going back? Where's the bailouts for the Black
Yeah.
and brown folks who are still there? Expunge records, please. Like we need
Yeah.
that now.
Yeah.
If we're gonna talk about marijuana legalization, we need to talk about like, expunging records of Black and brown folks and
Yeah.
be able to support some reparation. First of all, reparations
Yeah.
are
Getting those who are
moreover
in jail, getting
too.
those who are in jail right now, anybody who's in jail for that right now needs to first of all be released. And then, like you
Yeah,
said, expunging records, because it's just not fair.
yeah.
So, and we can that in itself can be the whole episode of your show, but
There's a lot to say. I think, like, especially, I'm also someone like who has done criminal justice work through law school, so we can literally go on about this
yeah,
topic forever.
seriously.
So it's interesting because you mentioned that you want to be a prosecutor. In that's the thing that you want to do, but
Right.
for viewers who aren't in the legal field, the biggest so prosecutors are often the people who who kind of like run the show when it comes to criminal cases. They are able to set the punishments, or they are able to set the years and sentencing, and they're the persons that call up the case, like which cases are being heard. So
Mhm,
prosecutors have a lot of power when it comes to criminal justice, like criminal law and criminal, like how criminal law and how criminal cases are being enforced. But a lot of people criticize prosecutors for being kind of unjust, especially for communities of color, especially for Black and Brown communities. So there's
mhm,
also kind of like this conflict between being a prosecutor but advocating for criminal justice.
mhm,
But we've seen in recent years where you have in Philly Larry Krasner, who is
mhm,
a progressive DA who's using that
mhm,
position as district attorney to change the game. We've seen Tiffany Caban in Queens running for district attorney on a decarceral platform. So Lashana, why prosecute? Like, why be a prosecutor? What about that specifically interests you in like what? Why that role in the pursuit of criminal justice?
Well, first of all, I think that it's important for people of color, especially Black and Brown people, to be in that role. Because the truth of the matter is, May, a lot of prosecutors are white, and a lot of them probably have this idea of Black people specifically, or even maybe Latino people, that they're dangerous, maybe that they're never up to any good, whatever preconceptions people might have. And I just think it's important for people who are Black and who are Latino and who do come from, those communities, to go into those positions, to bring just a different perspective and to just come to that job with a different perspective. Every person of color who goes into criminal law can't be a criminal defense attorney. Like, we need our people on both sides. The only way we're going to really change the system is by having our people on both sides, because like you said, you really, really said it really well. Prosecutors have a lot of power. They get to choose whether to bring charges. They get to choose what charges to bring. They get to decide whether to dismiss charges. They decide. They offer the plea deals. They come up with the plea deals. It's all in their hands. I mean, some people might argue that they have more power than a judge. So why can't we be on that side? Why can't we get to the point where why can't we be in a position where we have that same kind of power too? Why should it only be non-people of color who don't really know anything about us as people, don't really know much about us, about our communities, only knowing what they see on maybe Fox or whatever? They shouldn't be the only people to have that kind of discretion when it comes, especially when we're the main ones who are the defendants in these cases. And lastly, I really care about just advocating for people. You know, um, you know, people are children specifically are abused a lot of times, neglected a lot of times. And I really can't stand to see that or hear about that. And then you talk about victims of sexual abuse and even victims of police brutality. I want to advocate for those people. So that's basically why I go into prosecution.
Yeah, thank you so much for like letting us know about that. And like, I do agree. I think there has to be like perspective on both sides. Like in my last episode, like the last episode I did, my friend and I were talking about perspective in government and having perspective, because not every person, especially if you're coming from privilege, especially if you're white, if you're wealthy,
Mhm.
if you are um, coming from a certain background, you're not gonna, even if you don't have the worst intentions, even if you're not someone who is coming in to like actively be racist, you may
Right.
have some type of implicit bias. You may, or you just may not understand that, like, okay, bail for one group of people may work, but the bail amount for another group of people, it's impossible. It's not
Right.
feasible to do.
Right.
So it's like, so like for me, like, so it's like okay, having a $100 bail fine for, let's say, a middle class white person, that may be like, okay, fine, I'll just pay the $100 and call it a day. But
Right.
maybe for other families, especially low income families, $100 could mean food. It
A
could mean picking
lot
up
of
kids.
money. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
And
even
also,
when,
Sorry, I just wanted to add really quickly,
Yeah.
not to cut you off.
No, no, this is your show. This is your episode. Go ahead.
But also, when we think about why people do the things that they do, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of people don't understand when we think about selling drugs. I think a lot of people who come from other backgrounds might look at it and be like, that's terrible. You know, the people who do that are terrible people and stuff like that. But I think that a lot of people have to understand that in a lot of low income communities, people grow up and the only people that they see doing well in these communities, the only people that they see who are not living in poverty in these communities are people who sell drugs. And so they grow up and they see their mother struggling. You know, their mom is a single mom. She's struggling to pay the bills, pay the rent, whatever. And the only people that they see in these communities who are doing well, who have nice things, are drug dealers. So a lot of times they think, well, this is the way that I can make easy money, fast money. This is a way that I could help my mom. This is a way that I can help my family. So this is what I'm going to do. And so I think that, and I think that, you know, a lot of people who come from more wealthy backgrounds, more well-off backgrounds, they don't seem to understand that. They don't really seem to get that or see that because they don't know that. So it's important for people who do understand that to go into these positions so that once a young kid, you know, is arrested for possession of cocaine or whatever with the intent to distribute, it's important for a prosecutor to look and say, all right, we're not going to send you to prison or jail, but let's see what program we can put you in. Let's see what we can do for you to show you that this is not what you have to do. You know what I mean? So I just think that, like you said, it's about the bail, but also it's about understanding why people do the things that they do, and understanding the factors that lead people to commit crimes that some groups of people just don't know, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. Like, I think things like drug use, things like selling drugs, drug business, or even gang violence or being in a gang, those are
Yeah,
things that are stigmatized due to, uh, like, let's just say what it is, anti-black
right,
stereotypes. It's,
right,
kind of like this, like picture that's drawn up by the media that's kind of incorrect. When you think about gang violence, well, being in a gang, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And this might come off like a controversial statement. People are looking for community, and what kind of community is there? You, the gang can be a community for folks who need
absolutely,
it. You know what I mean?
absolutely, because a
I
lot of these kids don't have
Mhm.
families, and
Right.
that is their family. And
Mhm.
what about the mafia? If we want to
Yeah.
talk about gangs, let's talk about the mafia. Nobody
Right.
ever, when we think about what a thug is, the
Yeah.
first thing that comes into people's mind is a black
Yes.
person who's dressed a
Yes.
certain way. The mafia, they're thugs. They did the same stuff that a lot of gangs do, violence, killing, all that. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're right, May. You're really right about the way the media, the anti-black thing, and just the what the media shows. You're right.
Mhm. Yeah, no, definitely. Like, we have the mafia, we have Hell's Angels, but those are predominantly associated with white folks, where
Right.
those are more glamorized in media. But then you
Right.
have, the Bloods and the Crips, the Latin Kings. Those are black and brown,
Right.
predominantly black and brown groups,
Right.
and people are like, "Oh, they're dangerous." But it's like, no, it's we're not looking at it. Once again, it's anti-blackness coming
Right.
in, and I think with if there are more black and brown prosecutors, they're not coming in with that implicit bias that a lot of non-black
Right.
people of color or white folks may have.
Right.
So, I think that's like a really admirable path to want to become a prosecutor. It's not easy, and it's like when people think criminal justice, they think like defense, 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 or
Right.
like policy, but no
Right.
one ever sees prosecution really being a track because it's always been in conflict. It's always been kind of like thing, but you
Right.
don't have to make it from what you're saying. It doesn't have to be a conflict.
No.
We can look at rehabilitation instead of like retribution. We can look
Yeah.
at, we see like Red Hook initiatives like Court Center for Court Innovation or Red Hook Justice Center,
Yep.
where they're having youth come in and instead of being put in jail or juvenile hall, they're being given programs or they're being given, rehabilitation
Right.
things
And it
to
all depends
do.
on the DA that you work under. You mentioned one DA
Mhm.
in Chicago, but I actually have a list in my phone of
Mhm.
DAs that, because our school had an event, a really good one, where this lady
Nice.
came in and she talked about all these different DAs around the country who are
Mhm,
really, progressive, like you said. So I'm not, I'm just going to say it's important to know the DA that you're going to work under,
mhm.
because that is going to make a difference. So that's another thing to know too.
Definitely, I agree. I think it all like, and it is an elected position, and I think that's what DAs, candidates, and future DA candidates should know. Like we've seen here in Queens. I don't know if you're familiar with Tiffany Caban, who is actually an alumna of our school, which I'm
Oh,
like super
wow.
proud of.
Wow.
Tiffany Caban ran on a very decarceral, like no jails, no new jails platform, talking about like restorative justice. She ran on that platform in Queens, and she came in very close. So we're seeing that there is a trend that everyone is seeing that there is a problem with our criminal justice system,
Yep,
that
for
things need to
sure.
be changed.
Yep.
So it's like I'm excited to see the future, especially with folks like you who are like willing to step up to the plate and like make these changes in such an unjust system that we have. And
Right.
I can go on about like how the criminal justice system is rooted in slavery and all of that, the 13th Amendment, but
Oh, yeah.
that's gonna take me a whole other
That would
day.
take up the
That
whole
would take
episode.
we would be here forever talking about that.
Yeah,
Um,
seriously.
but I do want to shift gears. I think you have a very interesting law school journey, and I just want to talk about like, so you are someone who, in law school, it's like we mentioned, it's not diverse. It's predominantly white. It's predominantly middle class, wealthier folks,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's hard if you don't fit into that mold. So especially like you have all these intersections, right? You're a black woman
Mhm.
and you also have visual impairment,
Mhm.
and I just would love to know like what were some of the challenges that you faced in law school, challenges but also victories that you've had, and then what you've learned most about being in law school and things like that.
Well, you know me, you know my story.
Yeah.
You know that, I definitely had a little hiccup
Mhm.
with law school. And I think the reason why is because I didn't take advantage of the accommodations and stuff that were available to me. All my life, having like visual impairment and stuff, my family's from Jamaica, and they have this attitude that if you don't have all your vision, you're like out for the count. Like you can't manage, you can't do anything for yourself, you're just done. And you need to be babied and coddled. And I never was that type of person. And so I always had to fight because everybody always wanted to treat me differently and not let me do stuff. And so, and they always thought that like I couldn't do stuff and stuff. So when I got to law school, I was like, I'm not taking any accommodations because I don't want anybody. I'm going to sit with everybody and I'm going to do everything with everybody so that, and it was a mistake. It was a mistake because I didn't think about it in another point of view. I was looking at it like I'm as smart as them, I'm as smart as everybody else. So if they can do this exam in 4 hours, so can I. If I don't know it, I don't know it. I didn't realize that it takes me a little bit longer to read stuff because of my visual impairment, and I need the extra time on exams for that reason. You know what I mean? Even when I was taking my LSAT, the girl who was teaching my prep class, she was like, you're not dumb. You know this. You just need extra time. You need to get extra time." And I just think I came into law school and I was so like hell bent on just showing everybody that I could be just like them, that I just did not take any accommodations. And it was a mistake. That was definitely a mistake. So when we talk about challenges, that was like the biggest one. I definitely feel like, things would have probably gone much differently had I just taken those accommodations the first time around. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then when you ask me about like victories and things, I think, again, I had my hiccup. I didn't get to, continue with you guys. I had to kind of start over. The administration at our school was like, no, you're going to redo your first year and you're going to use the accommodations. Like they forced me to. And honestly, May, that was a victory because look at how things went. Things are so much better this time around, so much so that I even emailed one of our professors who gave me like a really bad grade when I was with you guys in our first
Mhm.
year. And I told her, thank you. I told her thank you because I was like, if you didn't do that, I wouldn't have been in the position that I was in, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity to start from scratch and take advantage of those accommodations. And now things are so much better. My grades are so much better. I think opportunities have become available that would not have become available otherwise. And I just think that that whole experience was a challenge and a victory in the same, at the same time.
No, thank you so much for sharing that story, and especially about your anecdote about, not wanting to take help, not wanting to look, that you couldn't do it, but like how I just like really appreciate that anecdote and how it tied into, you know, looking at something that like for a lot of people, if they had to restart their first year of law school, it would be disheartening. And I'm sure it was for you at first, but I really do respect the fact that you took it and was like, this is this is a victory for me. This is my opportunity to start over, and you looked at it at a very positive light, which is something that a lot of people, including myself, struggle to do when it
Hmm.
comes to like facing challenges. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for sharing that story. You mentioned a lot of like accommodations and things like that, like accommodations for folks who may have a visual impairment like yourself, other folks with disabilities, other lawyers with disabilities. So how do you think law school, whether it's like taking the LSAT, going through law school, taking the bar, how do you think law schools and the legal community should be more accommodating for folks with disabilities? What is a way that, in your opinion, that would be able to change that game for a lot of lawyers and to be more inclusive of of all types of lawyers?
Right. I think that first of all, it's good that they even have the opportunity, that they even offer accommodations on these exams in the first
Mhm.
place. So I want to give props for that. I mean, they have to because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but okay. But that's good because honestly, May, I took the MPRE with accommodations. Did super well on that. I took the LSAT with accommodations. I did well on that. And those things give me the confidence to do the NYLE, to do the bar, you know, my finals. So I just think that the only complaint that I really have is every single time when we talk about like the MPRE, the NYLE and stuff, I always have to submit the same paperwork over and over again to kind of prove that I have, a visual impairment, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that that's necessary in my case. I've had this thing all my life. It's not going to change. So if you see me submit paperwork one time and you saw the doctor's note and you saw this and that, I don't see why I should have to keep resubmitting it. You know what I mean? I can understand if it maybe were a different type of disability, maybe. But when somebody has a physical disability that they've had all their lives and it's not going to go away, I don't really see why I keep having to prove that over and over again. So for me, the only thing that I can really think of is, if I prove it to you one time that I have this visual impairment, I've had it since I was like a baby, it's not going to change, and you have the documentation there, I don't see why I should have to keep, it's causing it's a kind of an inconvenience because I got to reach out to the doctor again. I got
So
to
it's a new note, a doctor's note every single time you submit
pretty
something.
much pretty
Wow.
much
Okay.
it's ridiculous. Like even for the NYLE, I have to gotta reach out to my doctor. She has to write a whole report. She's been my doctor for years. She has to
Uh,
write a whole report. Then I have to prove that I got accommodations on other stuff. I got accommodations on these tests. You gave them to me.
yeah.
So it's just kind of like, I don't see why, and I get it. They don't like it when they don't want people to get accommodations when they don't necessarily need them, I guess. But it's like, bro, that I got these accommodations before. My situation. So why are we going through this again?
But I
So
could also see like it's even like it's a bureaucratic issue too. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It just seems like it's like unnecessary paper. But also, like you mentioned, like you have to get a doctor's note every year. How about there are folks who are uninsured who don't have the ability to go to the doctor and get like that note
yeah,
every time? Folks who are undocumented that may not have like the insurance. I think like that's just a bigger question in our healthcare system too. Like it's not easy for everyone to have access like that, to go and get paperwork done every single time they want to take
yeah.
MPRE and NYLE or the
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah, and
I
think
think that's
about how
ridiculous.
close these things are in relation to each other. You take
Yeah.
the MPRE one year, the next year you're taking the NYLE, and then less than a year later you're taking the bar. So I got to keep
Hmm.
coming back with the same stuff. It's too much.
It's too much. No, I definitely agree. It's like I think like honestly, like there should be some way that is a little more streamlined and more accessible for everybody. There's folks out there who may not have like I'm gonna say like a visual disability, but something that's a little more like a learning disability, or something that's more
Mhm.
like internal or like, and that's not as easy to diagnose. It's not as easy as something like that's physically there.
Mhm.
And it's definitely something that should definitely be like if we're gonna be more diverse. I mean, I'm not sorry, not diverse. If we're gonna be more accommodating, let's make these accommodations accessible for folks who do need it. Not
Exactly.
go through paperwork and things like that. And, it's like even things like you're saying, like with the courts, right, where you have like a time limit to submit in like a brief, you have a time limit to submit in this like documentation. It's like how about folks who do need that extra time to write that brief, or folks who need the extra time to get the cases, or folks who,
Right.
you know, and you're shutting out an entire demographic of lawyers
Right.
because people may feel discouraged because of these things. You know what I
Right.
mean? um, Folks who like, and there is like once again, go back to perspective, there are folks who have disabilities that can relate to clients who may have the same disabilities or
That is
know how to work through that stigma,
That's
you
true.
know?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, my mentor, just really quickly, my mentor, I don't know if you know that the school is doing like an initiative where they're pairing us who are graduating this year with people from your class, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, yeah. No, my coworker is in it.
Yeah, and this what my mentor, she works at a big law firm, and she was like, "Oh, I know I have a coworker at this firm who's also visually impaired. I really would like for you to speak to them." And things like that I think are important because it's important for people to see like, oh, there is somebody else like me out there, even if they're not in the same field as me, because this guy works at a law firm. God, he obviously does something civil, whereas I'm in. But still, it's just good to see people like you in the same field as you in some capacity. So I just think that stuff like that is really cool and respectable.
Yeah, definitely. I think representation is so important, whether that's in media or whether that's in a small scale situation. Like, the episode, one of my episodes, I spoke to my college friend, and we talked about representation in media and how that's like, you know, for me, especially like seeing another Asian woman in law, that's so much like that does so much for me because I didn't go into law at first because I was like, oh, I don't think people like me could succeed.
Hmm.
And like not even just like I don't want to see a stereotypical Asian where it's like serious, deter like yeah, I mean like you know what I mean like that
Yeah,
stoic and things like that. I want to see someone
yeah.
like me who's a little bit of a hot mess and like
You have
not
personality, May. You have
personality,
personality.
like someone who's a little all over the place, me. But I think like even like being like seeing representation and like be even yourself being that representation is so important. Like
Mhm.
you're definitely a highly respected in my opinion. I'd like to think I'd like to think you're a very highly respected member of our law school community. You are someone that
Thank
people
you.
really do look up to and
Thank
things like that. But even just saying that like for other law students, you know what I mean? Like for me coming into law school and like one of the biggest reasons why I was legitimately depressed being there because I felt culture shock. Like and I'm blessed to even say that because I'm blessed to say that the first time I faced culture shock was in law school because not a lot of like my friends, especially my black and brown friends, could say the same. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like where like they had culture shocks in high school or college.
mhm,
So the fact that I was able to wait this long in life to feel culture shock, that's a
mhm,
privilege.
mhm.
But like
It wasn't
coming
easy.
into it's not it was like I was like, oh, like I felt so ostracized. I felt so like different from everybody there and you know, but it really does take like, like so if you see someone who's just like you out there, and I'm going on a tangent, I'm making it all
No,
about
it's
me.
okay.
And this is like not the purpose of it. But I think it goes back to mentorship. You know what I mean? I think like just having someone, whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or if you're any type of professional where you're underrepresented,
For
it's
sure.
so great to have mentorships
Yeah,
that reflect you.
Yep.
like someone that you could look to, and like whether that's based on race, gender, sexual orientation, disability status, whatever. It's
Yep.
great to see someone like you. So I'm really glad that like your mentor was able to make that connection for you to meet her colleague, which is
Yeah.
like great.
Yeah.
And law school's tough. Like I really like. I mean, you're about to graduate. It, Zoom school of law. I don't know how that's going. And like, actually, yeah, like I would love to hear about that because the biggest concern with like Zoom, with the biggest concern with online classes has been accessibility, whether it's accessibility based on ability or based on even wealth. I know like
Mm,
from experiences, like my mom's a teacher and she works with a lot of low income
gosh.
students who may not have technology like an
Yep.
iPhone and an iPad that's accessible to do
Yep.
online classes.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
was just wondering on like your perspective, has it been like accommodating for you to do like in quotes Zoom school of law? That's what everyone's dubbing it these days.
Honestly, I'm just so thankful that I have that I'm in where I am right now, where I have internet access, first of all, and that I have a computer. I actually did not have a laptop for like a month because
Mm.
my laptop broke and they were
Oh,
trying to charge me $800 to fix it. And everybody was like, no, you might as well get a new one. And I'm just so thankful that I was able to get a new laptop. But it's been easy for me because I'm so thankful that I have what I need. I've been able to get what I need. I use my iPad when I didn't have a computer, and I just stayed, where I am right now so that I could, have access to the internet, have a quiet place to study and have a place to focus. But May, you're right. Think about the people who don't have that. Think about the people who are at home with their parents, with their siblings. It's loud, you know
yeah.
I could only imagine what that's like. So for me, it's been okay. And I'm just thankful for the fact that it has been okay, that I have all the stuff that I need to make it okay for me?
Yeah, no, and I'm like, I think we spoke about before we filmed that you're still able to remain in the housing that our law
Yep,
school has. A
yep,
lot of law school, I mean, not a lot of schools, including my alma mater, um, kicked out
yeah,
students from their dorms, and
yeah,
like that brings into a question of like, is it fair for like let's say international students who can't go home and have the money to spend, or even students domestically who can't shell out another like couple thousand to go
yeah.
fly back home, or
That
even
was, yeah,
students who for them school is a safe zone, right? There could be an abusive situation at home. There could be
yeah,
some like even just like your family's loud. You know what I mean? Like not
yeah,
abusive, but they're just loud.
yeah,
Listen, I'm in like an immigrant family. It can get kind of
yeah,
loud sometimes. You know what I
yep,
mean?
yep,
And or even in a situation where you don't have like you said internet access. Like
yeah.
school may be the one place where they
That you can
have
have
those
those things. Yeah, or
resources.
even like for me, I mean, for me, my mom is in a one-bedroom apartment because all her
Mhm.
kids are gone. So she's in a one-bedroom apartment. So that's not like the most comfortable. If I had to go stay with my mom, that wouldn't be the most comfortable space to be in. You know what I mean? And you're right,
Mhm.
May. Like it sucks. Like you're right. I'm really, really thankful that our school did not do that. A lot of people left and went back home, so the building has
Mhm.
been quiet, which is good.
Mhm.
But I'm thankful for the fact that our school did that because schools that's just so and that in itself is like elitist if you ask me. Like everybody has somewhere that they can just run to really quickly. Everybody can just
Yeah.
go home. Like no, sir.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're right.
Yeah, no, I actually like I mean, as much as I like clown on our school, as much as I have my own thoughts about
Issues. Yeah.
our institution, I do commend like their response to COVID-19. I think the administration did do a great job in balancing public health concerns, but also balancing the needs of students. And
Yep.
I kind of do appreciate that the administration did take that on really well.
Yeah.
I know like a lot of other like New York City law schools have followed our schools because we were the first school that did have to shut down due to like a student being in contact with like a premature case or one of the preliminary cases in the
Right.
city. So we did have to act fast. So I do appreciate that like the school did do that for students like yourself or other students who like may need these accommodations.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because law is such like this like rigorous, strict, conservative field, but there's so much changes that need to be done, whether it's like through the legal like law school pipeline in its own, or just like the way you like. It's not enough to just tote diversity. It's
Right.
what else are we gonna do? How are we gonna accommodate? Get students through the pipeline. It's not enough to just get numbers in and bodies into the seats, but
Right.
how are you gonna get those seats like how are you going to get people to leave law school, graduate, and then become successful attorneys
Oh,
to be able to serve the
please.
communities that they want to serve? So it's
And
like,
bringing out people of good character too, because a
oh
lot of
yeah,
people come into law school and you would be so surprised. I mean, I've seen stuff happen at our school and I'm like, bro, you're going to be a lawyer and
yeah,
you're doing
yeah,
that? Okay.
yeah. There are some questionable people, and I'm
Yeah.
not even just like throw our law school in the bus, but like I've heard in other law schools it's the same situation. I've heard the same in higher education as a whole master's program, but these are full grown adults who are still acting in
Mm,
this way, and I think a lot of it does come from like an elitist mindset. Like
right.
I get a free card, I'm not able to do anything because character and fitness comes. That's one thing, but it comes as a thing. Like I think you're going back to like your like oh people are coming in acting a certain way. It's
Mhm.
elitist because I think for students of color, you're set on a higher standard. Like you can't act a certain way because people will look at you in a
Different. I
different
mean, they're already
light.
looking at you differently, and it's just
Right,
going to
exactly.
exacerbate that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like you can't act the same way as, so and so because they may have connections and
Mhm.
privilege and things
Mhm.
like that. Like they're able to still get an internship because someone hooked it up for them, as opposed to
Mhm.
first generation students like us, as opposed to students of color, especially
Mhm.
black and brown students.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to work like 10 times as
Yeah.
hard to get that
Do not
internship.
have those connections.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like that's what it is with law school. I think like why I think personally for me, and I don't know it's like and I'm only speaking for myself, I'm gonna use an I statement. It's not the same for a lot of lawyers. The legal field is so toxic, the people in there are so toxic, it's like it contributes to one of the reasons why I was so like uncomfortable
Mhm.
being at our school
Mhm.
because it just felt and when I say toxic, I don't mean the administration. I think the administration, for me at least, has been super helpful and
They
accommodating.
have
But
been,
the
yeah.
student body and the community was very toxic. Like I felt like I couldn't breathe there. Like I felt like
Oh,
there was some vibe, there was some type of like cattiness that was still
yeah.
there.
Yeah, I
And I'm
can
not,
definitely imagine.
yeah. And I don't want to throw like our law school in the bus. I've heard worse stories from other schools. And not even just like the legal field. Like I've heard like I mean, it's just elitism, and I think that goes into
Oh,
like
yeah, you're
being
right.
an adult anywhere. You know what I mean? Like
Yep,
you can
you're
be a
right.
CEO of a business, and it just sucks. It's like
Yeah.
you know,
This one girl was literally like, "Oh yeah, I know somebody who can just give me the job." Somebody was
yeah,
like, "Yeah, this is how you can apply," and she was like, "Oh no, no, I know someone who can just give it to me." And then she was actually upset because she thought her mother was going to give her a job because her mom is a lawyer, and I guess
oh
her mom has her own practice, and she was thinking her mom was going to give her a job, and she didn't. And I was like, round of applause for that mother, because that's the type
yeah,
of elitism that we're talking about. Like, I could just chill, I don't have to work, I don't have to do anything because something is going to be handed to me. It's just such a sense of entitlement that
yeah,
we
entitlement. That's the word.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's just wrong. But you know what, May, just to kind of like finish it off, I'm glad that we don't wear the way that we are, because I think we're going to have an easier time in life. I
yeah,
really could say so, because when you go through life having everything handed to you, what can you do for yourself? What do you
yeah,
I mean, you don't even know how to apply for a job. You're 20 something years old, you don't even know how to apply for a job. It's embarrassing. And
mhm.
I look at it like I'm thankful, because at least I know that I'm resourceful. I know how to, do what I need to do to get to what I need to get to. So I would rather be like me than be like them, to be honest. That's
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
No, like, and I just feel like it's so like I think it's important, not even just like yes, I think people who are first gen, people who are like students of color, students who are immigrant students or students of immigrant families. It's you get born with a grit, you get born with determination, you get born with this like drive to really do
Yes.
something. But I think another flip side, you come with humility, you come with a sense of
Yes.
understanding, and you come
Yes.
with a different sense of I don't want to say morality because I don't want to hold one morality up to because everyone's
Right,
definition of morality is different.
right.
But
That's true.
it's saying like you're coming in with a certain character
You're
that
coming in with a
allows.
certain work ethic.
Mhm,
You're
mhm.
coming in with a certain work ethic because you know that,
Yeah.
it's up to you. You don't have people to fall back.
Right.
So you
Right.
certain different kind of work ethic. Like for me, just going back to what I said about having to start my first year over, I was determined. I was like, no, 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 because this is something that I want, and there is nobody that I can go to
Yeah.
give me any other opportunity. I have to do this for myself. So it lit a fire in me where I was like, I have to do this. This has to work. And now look at where I am. So you're right, May.
Yeah, definitely. And even just like your moral character, like treating your clients in a certain way,
Yep,
being able to understand your clients because you have a certain perspective that
yep,
other folks may not have had.
yep.
Like there was a recent thing where I saw I'm not gonna reveal the person, but like there was a like a law student, well, not a law student, a lawyer that I know who posted a semi-racist video on their Instagram page. And
What?
I'm like, you're a licensed attorney.
Oh,
I'll tell you about it later because I don't want to open this up on like a public feed.
no,
But there was
right, right, right.
like
I
my
think
friend
I
and
might know
I,
what you're talking
you
about, but
might know what I'm talking. Yeah, my friend and I were like, wait, hold on, this is a little offensive. My friend confronted her,
yes,
this
I know what you're
person,
talking about, May.
and the backlash was a little like the person was like the person who made put up the video told my friend and was like, this is not a big deal. So
Yeah,
it's like you're a licensed attorney, and granted, yes, like you're not gonna your license is gonna get revoked if you aren't directly racist while
right.
you're practicing law. But like attitudes like that, having that bias in your head and not knowing that to hold yourself accountable, that's problematic. And you're a lawyer.
Yeah,
It's the reason why the criminal justice system is
is the
still
way
unjust.
that it
It
is
is the
because people don't
yeah.
think so. And then and you mentioned something about humility, and that's true too. Because just like if even if you did not see that it was a racist thing, if somebody came to you and they came to you in a civil way and they said,
Mhm.
"Hey, look, that can be construed as racist. That's kind of racist." The humble thing to do would be to say, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize that. I'm sorry. I'll take it down. I didn't mean it like that." But for somebody to be like, it's not a big deal, that's not a humble thing to do.
Oh,
So it's just,
yeah. It's like I think that's what it's like humility. Like how are we to
yeah,
move forward in social justice if you're not gonna tell yourself like, hey, like
yeah,
I'm sorry? Because even myself, I think I'm still problematic. There are things that I'm still learning. There's things
mm,
I'm still unlearning
yep,
from things that I've been taught, from things I've consumed in my life. And if someone were to tell me like, hey, let's sit down, can you please stop doing this? This is a little problematic because X, Y, and Z, I'll take it, reflect on it, and be like, okay, let me change.
right,
Let me think
absolutely,
about how my actions, even though I did not intentionally
right,
do them, may
right,
have offended or hurt somebody
right.
or been disrespectful.
Right. That's
Yeah,
the thing. People are always so hung up on, I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter if you meant to do it. If someone's telling
100%.
you, look, this is how it's coming across, you're so
Hmm.
stuck in your own mind and your own intentions that you can't see that this is how it's affecting other people. That's not good. You
Right,
know?
I agree. Yeah, I think like you can do something with like no bad or malice intentions, but if your actions resulted in someone's hurt, that's still a wrong. The only thing you
Yeah.
can do is hold yourself accountable for it. And like this person did not demonstrate that, and it's sad to see like this is actually like in quotes a mild case.
Right.
Like we've seen that like people still act like this in the legal profession, and it's really disheartening to
Yeah,
know. But to end on like a great note, because we're coming up on the hour,
sorry.
you know, there's no, don't apologize. This is like a great discussion. It's honestly, I've gone like past it with almost every person I've interviewed so far. I've only done four, so I talk a lot, and it's a me thing. But I just want to say, like, to end on a positive note, I'm glad to know that the legal profession has folks like you coming in with
Thank
those
you.
good intentions, with the perspective to do better and to want to do better
Yeah, thank
for
you. May.
society as a whole.
Thanks.
So, and that's great. So, LaShawn, before we wrap, is there anything it's like your self promotion time? So, like any topic we haven't covered yet, or like anything that you want to promote, like Instagram projects you want to do. I've had like folks like drop down like their projects and I've like promoted them. So what do you want us to support?
Um, not I don't I have ideas about stuff that I wanna do, but I'm
Mhm.
too afraid to start them. I don't know. I don't know how to go about starting them, or I'm too afraid. I either wanna start like a blog or a podcast because people keep
Ooh.
telling me to do that.
Yes!
I
Oh my
know.
god, do
I even
it!
look at somebody like you, May, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I really admire the fact that you just started your thing. You were just like, look, I'm just gonna start and we're just gonna see where it goes. And I need to find the courage to do it. And I need to like just sit down and really do it. But like I don't really have anything right now that, I am doing because am too afraid right now to start stuff, to be honest.
No, and that's totally valid. Honestly, like, especially, like, now with quarantine, like, people are like, "We gotta do this. We gotta, like, write the great American novel." Like, no, if you need to rest, rest. Like, this is, like, take the time to rest, take the time to, like, do whatever you wanna do, and, like, the fact that you have like, it's hard. Like, I've always been wanting to start a podcast since, like, the fall. I wanted to do a media. I was always interested in, like, BuzzFeed or Instagram. Like,
Right.
I've always loved social media, and, like, I just didn't know how to, like, do it, and honestly, like, to be between you and I, like, literally, what it's like, it's hard because like, I don't know what will come out of this. I spoke, like, on my last episode, my college friend has her own, like, blog that like, her own blog website thing that she wants to get started, and, like, it was just about, like, us, like, taking that step, doing it, and if
Hmm.
we fail, we fail. Like, honestly, I don't even know what I'm gonna get out of this. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know. To be honest, I think it's, like, my best friend, like, my 3 best friends watching these shows anyway, but regardless, like, I think it's like the first step is like getting out there. It's like that's the
Yeah.
hardest step. It was difficult for me. Like I was like, oh, I'm not that popular. People don't even like me like that. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, it takes courage and like I'm still like even like insecure sometimes putting out an episode or like coming out like I have like probably the least glamorous clothes on right now and but that's like I think that's the vibe that I'm trying to go
Yeah.
for.
No, good for you, May. Good for you. Seriously, good for you for even having the courage to start. And you never know, it might
Thank you.
start out with three and then it might just go to more and more. So good for you, May.
Yeah, starting from, like, the 3 best friends to, like, my mom
Yeah.
and dad to, like, my
Yeah.
cousin probably.
I don't yeah, I don't know. I could I'll if people that maybe I have on my Instagram who don't have you on their Instagram, like I'll probably if you want, I'll share it on my Instagram.
Oh,
Just
no
this
worries, like,
episode.
yeah. But anyway, Lashana, thank you so much for being on, I really appreciate it. I cannot wait to like, reunite with you post-COVID. I
Okay.
can't wait for us to have more, like, fruitful discussions about criminal justice,
Thank
and
you.
I wish you the very, very best of luck. Congratulations again for graduating law school. Good luck on the bar, the
Thank
NYLE.
you,
I'm
May.
so proud of you.
Thank you, May. Have a good day.